I used to believe that if you gave enough time, money, loyalty, your name would never be forgotten. I believed that love meant reciprocity, that sacrifice meant legacy. But that illusion shattered the moment I opened the cream-colored folder on my parents' kitchen table. It was a quiet Sunday in late September. The house smelled like lemon polish and roasted potatoes the way it always did. My mom, Linda, had asked me to stop by to help sort through some financial paperwork. "You're always better at this kind of thing, Rachel," she'd said with a laugh. I sat at the dining table, the one I helped pay off during Dad's second layoff, and started thumbing through the stack: cable bills, medical receipts, old tax documents. Then I saw it, thicker than the rest, sealed, but already open. Estate plan and last will, written neatly in black ink. My fingers hesitated. I hadn't been looking for it, but once I saw it, I couldn't not open it. It wasn't curiosity, it was instinct. I flipped past the legal preambles looking for what mattered: the distribution. The house, valued at $460,000, 0 cents. The new SUV I had partially paid off when Mom's old car gave out. The savings account, the wedding china, all of it. Every single asset was to be inherited by my younger sister, Emily. My name didn't appear once, not even in the sentimental section. The only thing I got was a single line on the last page: "We love both our daughters equally." My jaw clenched. I thought about the $60, 0 cents I'd sent over the past 3 years to help them catch up on mortgage payments. I remembered fixing that leaky kitchen sink by myself, climbing onto the roof after a storm to replace damaged tiles, and wiring money the moment Dad mentioned a missed bill. It wasn't about the money, it was about what that money stood for, what my efforts should have meant. And now it was like I never existed. I heard her footsteps return from the backyard. Mom, humming like nothing was wrong. "Did you find the insurance document?" she asked, walking in with her orchid glove still on. I stood up slowly, will in hand. "Is this real?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. She blinked. "What's that?" Then she saw the envelope in my hand and froze. "Rachel, everything's going to Emily?" I cut her off. "Even the house I paid to save?" My dad, Thomas, walked in with a coffee mug and his usual Sunday calm. "Honey, don't be upset. You're doing fine. Emily's still finding her footing." I laughed. Cold, quiet. "She's 31. She quits a job every 4 months and lives off some guy she met in a Facebook group. I'm the one who kept this house afloat, not her." My mom stepped forward, gently placing her hand on mine. "We just wanted Emily to feel safe. She struggles more than you." I pulled my hand away. "And what about me?" I whispered. "The one who put her dreams on hold so you didn't lose this place? The one who never asked for anything but trust?" They didn't have an answer. I placed the will back on the table right where they'd left it, like returning a slap with silence. "Thanks," I said, my voice calm, detached. "Thanks for showing me exactly where I stand." I walked toward the front door and didn't look back. No one followed me, no one called my name, and for the first time in years, I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I just walked out with the hollow kind of clarity I'd never felt before. 2 weeks passed, no texts, no voicemails. It was like I had vanished from their world the moment I saw the truth. Part of me held on to the hope that someone would reach out, maybe explain or apologize, but that hope died the day I got a message from Dad. "Hey, Rach, the mortgage payment is due this Friday. Can you transfer it when you get a chance?" No, "How are you?" No, "We miss you." Just a casual request, like I was their personal ATM. I stared at the message for a long time, then typed back, word by word: "Ask Emily, the house is hers now, remember?" I hit send and didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. 10 minutes after I told Dad to ask Emily, my phone lit up again. This time it was Mom. "Rachel, don't do this. We need to talk." I stared at the screen. She hadn't called me once since I found the will. Now suddenly I was worth her attention. When the bills started piling up again, I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was done playing that role. I wasn't their fallback plan. I wasn't the one to patch their holes with my savings while getting nothing in return. The silence stretched for 2 more days. Then, on Monday afternoon, while I was drinking coffee at my kitchen table, another notification popped up. A bank transfer request from my mom. $2,850, 0 cents. No explanation, no context, just a cold, emotionless ask like it had never stopped. Damn. I didn't hesitate. I hit decline. My heart didn't even race this time. No guilt, no second guessing. A few minutes later, my phone rang. I let it go to the fourth buzz before I hit decline again. Then the text came, Rachel, I know you saw it. Why did you decline? I stared at her message for a while, then typed back, because it's no longer my responsibility. Ask Emily. That was it. The clarity that followed was the kind you only get after years of being walked on. I didn't feel like a bad daughter. I felt like a human being who had finally stepped out of the fire. And when Emily messaged me later that night, you're overreacting. Mom and Dad didn't mean it like that. You've always been the strong one. I'm just not. You know that. I didn't flinch. I typed back, then prove you deserve what you've been given. Start with the mortgage. No response. Not that I expected one. Another week passed. The quiet should have been uncomfortable, but it wasn't. It was relief. Then came the next wave. A text from Emily popped up just as I got out of the shower one Thursday evening. Are you really going to let the house fall apart? Seriously? You're being dramatic. I let out a breathless, humorless laugh. That word dramatic always tossed around when I finally said no. I typed back, I'm not being dramatic. I'm being clear and you better get used to it. 1 minute later, she shot back, you're seriously selfish. Don't be surprised if Mom and Dad never forgive you. I looked at the message and shrugged. It didn't sting. I didn't feel like I needed to defend myself anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't obsessed with being the good daughter. I was finally free. The next morning, I called the bank and asked to have my name removed from the joint account that had been covering the mortgage. The woman on the line paused and asked if I was sure. Absolutely, I said. Then I contacted the electric, water, and gas companies and canceled all the auto payments I had quietly set up over the years. I even deleted the bill reminder app I had used to stay on top of it all. It felt like holding a tiny funeral for the old version of myself. That night, I cleaned up my apartment, lit a cinnamon candle, and treated myself to the chocolate cake I always used to skip because there was always something more important to spend money on. I went to sleep without stress for the first time in a long while. No payment deadlines, no guilt, just peace. And in that silence, I realized something. I'd been holding together a house that would never have held me. The silence that followed wasn't the kind that made me anxious. It was the kind that made me free. For the first time in years, no one was texting me about missed payments. No one was calling with panic questions about login passwords or due dates. My phone stayed quiet for a week straight, and I let it. I didn't reach out. I didn't check in. I didn't worry. If they needed help, they knew who to call. Emily, the one they'd chosen to inherit everything. That Friday morning, I made a fresh breakfast for myself, sat by my window with a view of the street, and sipped coffee with real cream. The kind I used to avoid buying because the grocery list always included things for them. Now, it was just me, and it was enough. Then, as if on cue, the first crack appeared. Tuesday morning, a message popped up on my phone from Mom. The internet just got shut off. I can't get online and Emily doesn't know the password. No greeting, no apology, just panic. I didn't respond. 2 days later, another text came. Rachel, the landline isn't working. I tried resetting the router, but it keeps blinking red. Do you remember what we're supposed to do? Again, I said nothing. I opened a drawer instead, the one that still had the old notebook where I had written down every detail for them, passwords, schedules, call centers, account numbers. I used to update it monthly. I picked it up, flipped through the pages one last time, then closed it and put it away. I wasn't their assistant anymore. I wasn't the family backbone they'd casually erase with the stroke of a pen. That weekend, another message rolled in. This time, it was Emily. Are you kidding me right now? The electricity's about to be shut off. Are you seriously going to let that happen to your family? I stared at it for a full minute. Then I typed back one sentence. No, I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices. And I meant it. I wasn't punishing anyone. I wasn't angry. Not in the way I used to be. This wasn't about revenge. It was about stepping out of a toxic cycle, one where I was always expected to drop everything, fix everything, pay for everything. But now I had nothing left to give that wouldn't be stolen and unappreciated. That house didn't feel like my home anymore, and it hadn't for a long time. What they didn't realize was I'd already grieved the version of them I thought would protect me. Now I was simply living in the truth. A few days later, I got a call from someone unexpected, Mrs. Florence, the neighbor who'd lived next to my parents for over 25 years. Her voice cracked a little when she said, "Sweetheart, I hate to bother you, but your mom mentioned to me that they were looking for someone to buy the house. I think they're not doing well." I closed my eyes. It had started. The fallout. The part where everything they leaned on me for came crashing down because the person they gave nothing to had finally stopped holding it all up. I didn't ask questions. I didn't gloat. I just said, "Thank you for letting me know," and hung up. I sat on the couch afterward and didn't cry. I didn't feel angry or vindicated, just tired. A bone-deep weariness from years of being everything for everyone while receiving nothing back. The kind of fatigue that wraps itself around your heart and finally lets it breathe when you stop pretending love is enough without respect. The house could fall, and I wouldn't lift a finger. Not out of spite, but out of healing. It happened late on a Sunday afternoon. I just finished editing a few photos from a weekend hike. My tea was still warm, and for once, the world around me felt quiet in a good way. Then came the knock. Not urgent, just steady. I peeked out my window and immediately froze. There, standing in front of my building's entrance, was Emily. Hoodie wrinkled, no makeup, holding a crumpled folder full of papers in one hand and her purse in the other. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes darted toward the buzzer as she reached for it again, and I opened the door before she could press it. We stared at each other for a few seconds. "I just need 5 minutes," she said, her voice thin and shaky. "Please, Rachel, just 5 minutes." I didn't invite her in. I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. "Are you here to ask for money?" I asked calmly, my arms crossed. "Not money," she said quickly. I need your help. With the bank. I don't understand the terms and I'm overwhelmed." I raised an eyebrow. "What about the inheritance you got?" I asked, voice steady. She looked down and muttered, "It's in an investment account. If I touch it, there's a penalty." I didn't think it would spiral this fast. I sighed, studying her face. Still waiting for someone to bail her out. Still living in a world where consequences didn't really apply. "You signed for everything without hesitation," I said flatly. "The will, the house, the decisions. I thought you and Mom had it all under control." Her silence answered that. She had never thought about what came after. She wasn't built for that. She was built for rescue. I stepped back slightly, squinting into the sun. "This is the lesson you need, Emily. Everyone stumbles, but you don't learn if someone's always there to catch you." She looked up, eyes desperate. "You really gonna let the house go?" "I'm not letting anything happen," I said. "I just stopped pretending I'm the only one responsible for what happens." 3 days passed. I didn't hear from Emily again, but the world was smaller than I thought. That Friday night, I ran into Ben Adams, an old classmate turned real estate agent at a local art center mixer. I was just about to tell him about the photo project I'd been working on when his eyes widened. "Wait, is your parents' house on Maple Drive?" I blinked. "Yeah, why?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "One of my agents said they saw it listed, said it's in bad shape, price just dropped again, word is they're desperate to sell." I nodded slowly. "That wouldn't surprise me." He looked at me for a long second like he wanted to say something, but didn't. Later that night, I opened my email and found a newsletter from a housing support program I used to volunteer for. They were looking for mentors, people who'd experienced family financial dysfunction and wanted to help others. Without hesitation, I filled out the application. Not for my parents, not for Emily, for me, for the girl who used to think love meant erasing yourself to be needed. I wasn't interested in fixing my parents' mistakes anymore. I wasn't chasing apologies. But if I could use what I'd lived through to help someone else escape the trap of guilt, then maybe it wasn't all for nothing. That following weekend, I held my first class at the community center. Just 3 people showed up, one college student, a single mom, and an older man with tears in his eyes before we even started. "I don't know how to say no to my daughter," he said, "even when I'm drowning." I looked at him and nodded. "I do," I replied, and it saved my life. Later that night, I walked home under the orange haze of streetlights, my camera slung over my shoulder, and for the first time, I didn't look back when I passed a family porch. I didn't wonder if they were calling my name behind closed doors. I knew they weren't, and for the first time, I didn't care. I had stopped looking for my value in their approval, and I had finally found it in my peace. The first sign that silence wasn't enough came from Olivia, a coworker and close friend at the art center. We'd just finished cleaning up after our Saturday morning photography class when she turned to me and said, "Rachel, are you on Facebook? You should check your mom's page." I hadn't opened that app in months. Most of my posts had been art, nature, and the occasional birthday message. I didn't like drama, but when Olivia showed me the screenshot, my stomach turned. There on mom's timeline was a photo of the old house, still holding on under a gray sky, and a caption that read, "It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on her family in our time of need. We sacrificed everything for her and she abandoned us." 84 shares, dozens of comments. "Praying for you. Shame on her. This generation doesn't understand loyalty." I didn't feel rage. I felt tired. A sharp, stinging kind of tired, the kind that presses behind your eyes, but never quite turns into tears. I scrolled further. Dad had posted too. Rachel always said family came first, but when we needed her, she walked away like we meant nothing. The house we built is being ripped from under us, and she acts like it's none of her concern. Then Emily, ever dramatic, followed with her own post. "Some people love being praised when they're the hero, but when asked to be human to help, they disappear. I guess strong now means silent and selfish." I set my phone down, not because I couldn't take it, but because I wouldn't. They wanted an audience. They wanted sympathy. But what they didn't know was that I still had everything. The will, the payment receipts, the bills I covered, and the messages they sent when they thought I'd keep being quiet. That night, I logged into my dusty Facebook account and made one post. No background, no emojis, no color gradients, just truth. Since my family has chosen to publicly share their version, here's mine. I uploaded a photo of the will at museum, solely listed as beneficiary. Then I posted screenshots of bank transfers, monthly mortgage statements, utility bill confirmations, all in my name. And finally, I shared the last message I received from Mom, asking for $2,850, 0 cents. I ended it with one line. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right moment to tell the truth. This is that moment. I hit post. Then I closed the app. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Comments, shares, messages. "Rachel, I had no idea. You're one of the kindest people I know. This makes so much sense now. I always wondered why Emily acted like the house just fell into her lap." And just like that, the weight I'd carried quietly for years, trying to be the peacekeeper, the fixer, the daughter who never made waves, began to lift. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I just let the facts speak. 2 days later, Mom deleted her posts. Dad's account went dark. Emily changed her profile picture to a black and white rose, her usual way of fishing for sympathy when her narrative started slipping, right? I didn't post anything else. I didn't respond to the few defensive messages they tried to sneak through. I just sat by my window, sipping coffee, watching a gentle rain fall on my balcony garden. For the first time, I wasn't carrying their guilt. And justice finally didn't feel like revenge. It felt like relief. It had been a few weeks since the Facebook post. I hadn't heard a word from Mom, Dad, or Emily. The house, the one I saved with $60,000, 0 cents, no longer haunted my thoughts. I had moved on. Or so I thought, until a message popped up on my phone from Marcus, a realtor friend I hadn't spoken to in months. "Hey, Rachel, random question. Are your parents selling their house on Oakmont Drive?" I blinked. "Yeah, why?" He replied instantly. "It's listed now. Price dropped twice in 2 weeks. Leaky roof, old furnace, high foreclosure risk. Just thought you should know." I stared at the screen for a while, then typed, "I figured this was coming." Marcus replied with just one line, "It's a mess. Whoever kept that place running did a lot more than anyone knew." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because he was right. That night, I walked through my apartment, suddenly seeing it through new eyes. My space was small, just a one-bedroom with hardwood floors and a balcony, but it was mine. The bills were always paid on time. The heater worked. The roof didn't leak. The plants on my windowsill were thriving. Everything was simple and quiet. I didn't have to check my phone every hour for a request. No panic voicemails. No guilt-laced messages. I put on music, pulled out a canvas I'd been working on, and let the peace wrap itself around me like a warm coat. It wasn't that I was happy to see the house fall apart. I just wasn't willing to bleed anymore to keep it standing. Later that week, I got a call from Mrs. Callahan, my parents' elderly neighbor. I hadn't heard from her since I left. "Hi, sweetheart," she said in that familiar, kind voice. "I just wanted to check in on you. I hope you're doing all right. But, well, I also thought you should know. Emily's moved back in with your parents. She's doing the grocery runs now, taking care of the bills, or trying to. She doesn't look too happy." I thanked her and promised to stay in touch. After the call, I looked out my window and let her words settle. Emily was getting a taste of what it meant to be the responsible one, to carry the weight she never understood, to feel the pressure I once carried alone. I didn't smile, I didn't cheer, but I didn't ache either. I just felt calm. I wasn't glad they were struggling, but I finally understood I had made the right choice. I had stopped enabling people who didn't see me, who only remembered me when something broke, who pushed me aside when there was credit to give and called me first when the bills were due. I wasn't their Band-Aid anymore. I wasn't their plan B. I was just Rachel, a woman who learned, too late maybe, that love without boundaries only leads to burnout, that giving without gratitude turns you into a ghost inside your own life. But now, I was real, present, awake, and the house I once saved, it had become just another address on a listing site, a property, a structure, a lesson, and I was finally learning how to let it go. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon. I had just wrapped up a small photography workshop and returned to my apartment, looking forward to tea and silence. But as I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed something that stopped me cold. A silver minivan I hadn't seen in months. I knew that van. I had co-signed for it 4 years ago when Dad's credit was too low. I handed over the title last year as a final act of trust. Now it sat parked at the curb like a ghost from another life. I parked on the far side and walked slowly toward the building. There they were, Mom and Dad, standing by the entrance. Emily was behind them, clutching a thin purse, eyes down like someone hoping to disappear. They all looked older, smaller somehow. I stopped a few steps away, arms crossed, face blank. I didn't say a word. Mom spoke first. "Rachel, I'm sorry we had to come like this, but it's urgent." Dad cleared his throat. "The bank is sending someone next week to reassess the property. If the house is taken," he paused, eyes heavy, "your mother won't handle it well." I looked at him straight, my voice colder than I'd ever let it be. "Then why, when you were writing the will, did you decide I wasn't worth including?" He dropped his eyes, hands wringing the hem of his coat. "We thought you'd be okay. You've always been the strong one." I nodded slowly. "And Emily, she gets to fail and still be rewarded?" I turned to face my sister. She looked up, guilty, but said nothing. I gave up everything," I whispered. "Years of my life, thousands of dollars, my own dreams. And you thanked me by cutting me out." Mom reached for me, eyes glassy. "We didn't know it would come to this. We just wanted to keep the family together, make things easier for Emily." I stepped back, "So you made it harder for me." "We thought you'd understand," she whispered. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said, "Clearly, I'm not saying no because I can't help. I'm saying no because the moment I do, everything will go back to how it was. You'll forget again. You'll let me carry it all. Again." Emily finally spoke, voice small. "I didn't think it would get so bad. I thought it just needed a little time." "No," I said. "You thought I'd eventually show up and clean up your mess like always." But they didn't deny it. I stepped to the side, pulled open the building door. "I hope you find a way, but I'm no longer the lifeline for this family." I looked at Emily one last time. "If you really want to grow up, this is your chance." Then I walked inside and let the door close behind me. I stood in my living room for a while after that, staring at the sunlight stretching across the floor. My chest didn't feel heavy. My eyes didn't burn. I was okay. For once, I didn't second guess my boundaries. I didn't replay the moment wondering if I was too cold, because I wasn't. I had been warm for far too long in a family that mistook warmth for obligation. For once, I hadn't let guilt win. I hadn't cracked when they showed up with sadness and empty hands. And as I looked out the window and watched them drive away, I realized something else. I didn't feel guilty. I felt like I had finally said the words my younger self had choked on for years. I had spoken not out of anger, but out of truth. And in doing so, I had freed that younger version of me, the one who gave everything and got silence in return. That girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who chose herself. I thought the confrontation at my door would be the last time I heard from them. I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd sit with the silence and finally reflect. But I overestimated the self-awareness of people who had spent years convincing themselves that someone else's sacrifice was their right. 1 week later, I got a message from Olivia at work. "Hey, you need to see this. Your mom's back on Facebook." I opened the app reluctantly and scrolled. There it was, another post. This time it was subtler. A photo of the house at sunset with the caption, "Watching the home we built slowly slip away is the kind of pain only a parent can understand. Betrayal cuts deep." The comments were a mix of sympathy and misguided comfort. "No parent deserves this. And she'll come around. Some kids forget who gave them everything. It would have stung months ago, but now?" I didn't feel wounded. I felt amused. They had turned to public shaming when guilt didn't work. But what they forgot was I had already spoken, and I wasn't going back to silence. I didn't respond. I didn't repost or explain. I didn't need to. The truth had already been shared, and those who mattered had listened. 2 days later, Dad deleted his account, and Emily changed her profile picture to another one of those cryptic grayscale flowers, her usual signal that she'd lost control of the narrative. It didn't matter. I was already gone. Not in body, but in purpose. Their chaos no longer reached me. I spent my mornings prepping for photography class and my evenings editing images that had nothing to do with pain. Light falling through trees, smiles on the faces of students who'd never known my past. I had started sleeping again. Really sleeping. No nightmares about forgotten bills or emergency calls, no dread in my chest every time my phone buzzed. Just peace. Then, one quiet Thursday afternoon, I got an alert from Zillow. Listing price dropped, $30,000, 0 cents reduction on a property at 417 Oakmont Drive. I didn't even have to open it to know. The house, the one I kept afloat for years, now crumbling because the people who inherited it had no idea how to keep it breathing. I looked at the photos. Shingles missing, gutters bent, the porch cracked. It was no longer the house I had poured my soul into. It was just a shell, a memory. I closed the app, pushed my phone aside, and smiled to myself. Not a smug smile, not revenge, just a quiet acceptance. That house had stood because of me, and now that I wasn't there, it simply reflected what had always been true. They never knew how to care for it, or for me. The next weekend, I walked by Liberty Park with my camera slung over my shoulder. I stopped to capture a shot of a mother pushing her toddler on a swing, her laughter ringing out into the crisp air. As I snapped the photo, I realized something. Not everything has to be held on to. Some things, some people are meant to be let go because they were never safe to hold in the first place. I used to think family was sacred, that blood always meant loyalty, that if you gave enough, stayed long enough, they would see you. But now I know. Love isn't measured by sacrifice. It's measured by respect, by reciprocation, by the space people make for you when you're no longer holding everything together. And when that space never comes, you leave. You grow. You build a life that isn't held hostage by obligation. I no longer walk through life carrying their shame. I carry a camera, a sketchbook, a heart that finally belongs to me. I haven't gone back, not to the house, not to them, and I don't plan to, because I'm no longer looking for home in a place that only saw me as useful. I am home now. And that's the legacy I choose. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. Do not forget to subscribe to Home of Revenge Stories for more amazing stories like this.